All right, everybody. Welcome to the Bacon, Bibles, and Barbells Podcast. I am Coach Justin and joined by Coach Amanda and Coach Emily. We are going to talk about a bunch of stuff about diet today, about calorie counting, calories in, calories out. Does it work? What works, what doesn't work, and how to be mindful of these things and how to think of how you diet in the long term, like be more mindful of all these things. And also, like, is it practical for you to be weighing out your food all the time? Short answer is, we'll wait. So, yes, spoiler is not there yet, but you can probably guess if you listen to any of our content. Yeah. Let's do a quick round the room though and talk about like what we've got going on. So I'll go real quick. Mine's easy. I'm still in a caloric deficit, not super aggressive. I've got about 2 more weeks left and then I'll be done. Probably going to close out this having lost, 14 pounds or so. And I think I might have recomped a little bit. Like, I think my back's a little bigger, so that's cool. I have a dedicated back day I've been going pretty hard on. So, that's been going well. I'm pretty happy with it. I was hoping that I'd see a little more abs by this point, but, I lost a lot more off my back and lower body than I had anticipated. So I actually have like quad, lines now that I didn't have. And so, so I'll take it, but I'm really looking forward to training heavy again and getting back to eating maintenance. Cause I'm, super low energy and, everything's heavy and it sucks. I'm not struggling with hunger though. I'm fine. I wouldn't mind eating this much food forever.
Yeah. Justin never struggles with hunger.
No, I mean, I can, it's been fine. Like I actually all the portions I'm eating, I'm content. By the time it's time to eat, I'm like, okay, cool, it's time to eat. But I'm not like ravenous or anything. It's just I adapt to that pretty easy. But I do not like how weak I feel. So I'm looking forward to maybe.
So you're noticing it in the strength before the hunger.
Oh yeah, it just like kills my strength, and I'm just you're just a little more tired all the time after when it's been this long. So. I'm ready for it to all be over, ready to start feeling strong again. So maybe late June or so, I'll be able to start pushing some heavier weights and do more of the kind of training that I enjoy more because I just have no gas in the gym. And today was particularly difficult because we cut down a tree yesterday that had been leaning precariously, and it was about a 70-foot tall tree.
It's a huge tree.
Yeah, it was big.
It's enormous.
Yeah, it was like we counted the rings. It was like 50 years old or so.
Yeah,
and it's work I don't normally do, and then I train legs today, so I'm wrecked.
Yeah, you guys were chopping up that tree all day yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
You're like, I know.
Yeah, that's exhausting.
Yeah, it was
that
exhausting.
Kind of outside long work.
Yeah, it was all posterior too, because I'm like bending over with the chainsaw. There's no great way to do that, and then you're hacking limbs, so you're holding the chainsaw out in front of you, so it's all delts, and then I did a bunch of wood splitting as well. So again, more posterior, picking things up, putting them on, So doing legs today, they were already kind of shot, and then I actually have not had a leg day where I felt like I couldn't walk normally, and I actually couldn't walk normally for a while. And I still going. My office is on a second story, so going down the stairs sucks. Going up the stairs is actually fine, but going down the stairs, my quads are like, no, we're not doing this. So that's my update.
Tired, sure.
Yeah, definitely. So Amanda, how are things going for you? You're eating some more food.
Yeah, this is my second week of updating my program from a upper lower split to doing, which I was doing 5 days a week. Actually, it was like 4, and one of them was kind of an optional day, which I probably got in about half the time. So second week on a program that is lower, upper, lower, and then a full body. It's just a real short upper pump followed by lower body. So mostly lower body emphasis on that day, which means I'm training lower body 3 days a week and upper body like 1.5, technically. So getting used to that, where it moved around some workout days, figuring out different nutrition because I had different calories for training days versus non-training days, and different cardio amounts for those days as well. So redoing the schedule. just considering doing 4-day-a-week workouts and 3 days off. But I'm still in maintenance, so it's really not so bad right now. I've been in maintenance for quite a while now. So hopefully the lower body will catch up to the upper body with all of this, and I can actually have some balance and symmetry going on.
Hey, I mean, that's not the problem that most women are having. So you could be grateful for that, because the lower body, like, unless you're an old man, for some reason, old men, their lower body just can never come in. It's like guys over 50, you get skinny legs no matter what. You might even still be really strong, but your legs just, they're not full anymore. You can have jacked arms, but your legs, but like everybody else, like, you can always get legs.
Yeah, I think the struggle, though, is with having a struggle with getting lower body larger. It also makes it harder for the midsection to look narrower. So that's where the balance really comes in. Like, so if I can develop more quads, hamstrings, glutes, then the waist will end up looking slimmer in the end.
You get the look.
Yeah, but the nature of lower body training is it does tend to thicken your waist depending on how you're going about it.
Yeah, we were taking out a little bit of posterior chain involvement. I mean, as much as I can do where I can still engage hamstrings and glutes, but not trying to load, like, far less deadlifts than I was doing, or deadlift variations. So I actually have no back squats at all in my program right now. I'm doing leg presses, step ups, things like that. So trying to not load the spine so I'm not having to brace so fully anymore. And hopefully bring that down, doing a lot of vacuums as well. Actually, I just did my measurements and things are going in the right direction. Like, it's just my shoulders are 10 inches larger than they were the measuring before, a couple years ago. And the hips are like a couple inches. The waist is down like a couple inches. So, yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's a fine problem to have, I would say.
That's so funny.
I mean, I enjoy it on upper day. Get a good pump going.
Right.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Lower body training just takes it out of you differently. Yeah. It does hit harder.
It does.
And so when you're going through phases, when you're emphasizing it, you're just more fatigued in general. Even if you're eating maintenance, I mean, if they're eating maintenance or surplus, it doesn't matter. Like, there's still going to be more fatigue in general because you're just doing a lot more work.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for me to experience any kind of nausea during workouts, which leg day is actually a pretty common one that people get that a little bit. And it was the first time this past week I was like, I kind of feel sick. Like, I kind of feel like I want to sit down for a little bit, but that means I'm doing the right thing. I'm working.
Yeah, working hard.
I've not had that. I've had it when I ate too much before a workout a little bit. My stomach was like, hey, no way. But I never was even close to puking. No. But I guess I don't get that so much, but cool. How's your training going?
Mine's going good. So it's fun. This summer, I decided to train with my girls in the group program. I kind of set it up because it's just like a physique building program. And I just came off the winter where I was doing a ton of lower body all winter long. And so the group program is actually great. I modify, a few exercises for me and kind of what my goals are. I don't think I have any back in there or anything like that. So I throw a couple back things in, at the end of the week. And so it's like a lower body, upper body day. And then it's supposed to be like a full body day on the third day of the week, but I throw some back in there too and kind of do some of that. So that's been fun. And it's been good for our group, I think, to kind of, even the coach Emily was saying it was really
solidarity.
Hard. So it built a little camaraderie. We're all suffering together. So that's been fun. It's been fun I'll go back to something different probably in the fall, but for the summer, it works well. And it works well because I've been losing weight. And on that, I've just been cruising. I've been cruising at losing a pound a week now for 6 weeks. And so I am just locked in, keep doing everything I've been doing, keep that up as long as I can for now. And the only thing I've added in is I added in more cardio, which the only thing I actually enjoy it. I just don't like the time it takes. And I don't like that it makes me super hungry. You don't get this, which is nice. When he works out, he's doesn't want to eat for a while. I literally step off the treadmill and I am starving.
Especially if I do cardio, I'm even less than, I don't want to eat at all when I do cardio.
I am the opposite. I'm just like, I want to eat all the food right now when I step off the treadmill.
Like, I've earned this.
Right.
Yeah, I think I just like, I'm hot. Like when I'm hot, I don't want to eat. Yeah, I just like, no, maybe later. Like with that brutal leg day I had today, I could have, because we trained in the morning between breakfast and lunch. I could have skipped lunch. I was still uninterested. Like I'm just like, no. I ate lunch, but it was actually more because I had to than because I wanted to.
Yeah,
I'd have been okay just being like, no, that's fine.
Yeah, we are opposites.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with switching back to parasympathetic. And like some people it takes a little longer.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, let's get to our topic today. So we're going to mostly, there's going to be a transition as we talk through things. But when we think about like, so say you take your, typical person wants to lose some weight because, they have some unwanted body fat and they want to, obviously they're going to start training, but they want to lose weight. What's a good way to go about this? What are our first steps and how do we want to approach this, including like what kind of messaging and mindset are we looking for to like instill in a person like that, Amanda?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand actually what they're eating already, especially if they've never tracked before. They've probably done things like elimination diets or keto or paleo or something like that. They've probably tried, but don't really have a real grasp on what their intake actually is. Yeah. So the first thing to start with is really educating on what calories do, that you really can change your body on calorie deficit, calorie surplus, or calorie maintenance, that it really does boil down to those laws of physics that we cannot change. A lot of people think they can be the exception to the rule on those and say, I've tried everything and nothing's going to work. But there is only a way to lose weight, and that's a calorie deficit. Yeah. So being able to educate on that is the first step. If they don't know what they're already eating, I would encourage just tracking calories only as a starting point, not with a goal, not with any particular number in mind to go for, but literally just to know what you're eating already and develop some trends. People probably aren't even eating the same amount every day. One day they'll eat a lot, one day they'll eat a little. And so having a couple weeks of that data gives a really good starting point, both tracking your calories and your weight over that time. And you can actually see what it's doing. The difficult mental component to this is not trying to be a specific calorie goal and not trying to give too much emphasis on the scale, but like literally looking at them as data points. Like this is only data, and then we go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when people do that too, they'll tend to start losing weight anyway, because you start like there's a subconscious like thing that happens where you start evaluating, should I eat this?
Yeah, mindfulness.
Yeah, and I know I went through that too when I was trying to gain weight to become muscular, because I was like 135 pounds, almost 10 years ago now, when I cut that out. But the first thing I did was measure my calories, because I trained for a little while, and I was just like, man, I'm not, like, nothing's happening. and I was getting enough protein. I was getting like 200 grams or so, but I'd never tracked calories. And I tracked calories for just like a few days, and I was getting like 1,400 to 1,600 calories a day. And that's how you stay at 135 pounds as a 5'11" man. And so like, I was like, oh, I have to like double what I'm eating. And that was just measuring it gave me the information to be like, oh, I clearly know that's not enough calories. Even though I knew far less about the topic back then, it was very obvious that's definitely not enough food to grow. There's no way it's going to happen. Right. And that was to me very helpful. And I've seen similar with other, people that we've worked with, like just them becoming mindful of how many calories they consume in a given day, and evaluate. You do begin to change your behavior for it. It's tough because you want to know what your baseline is or what got you, where you are. the very act of measuring will probably change outcomes, because you start you do, even if you don't do it consciously. I think you usually will at least subconsciously be like, when you're going to go to eat something, you go like, well, I'm gonna have to write that down now.
Right.
And it kind of changes whether or not you're going to eat it, because you might be like, no, that's not worth having to write down. It's not it's because it's kind of an admission of guilt, if it's contrary to your goals and you know it. So I think that even the very act of logging food becomes very helpful just to start.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And even when we talk about calories, the scientific definition of a calorie is they're actually measuring the amount of energy in it to raise the temperature of water. And so the calories we see on nutrition labels, those are, I think, kilocalories. So it's not quite the same measurement, but it's still the same principle of you are measuring the amount of energy that you're hoping to transfer to your own body to be able to use for breathing, thinking, running, exercising, all the things our bodies are doing every day. Yeah. And so when you get people to just look at it in that okay, this is your life and this is how many calories you need to just sustain what you're doing right now, besides just lying on the couch, how much are you moving? How much are you exercising? How many steps do you take every day? And how much energy do you actually need just from your food to sustain that? And if you're, it's just that basic energy transfer principle. And if your body wants to stay alive, so if you take in too much, it's going to store it, because it's hey, we might need that later. And so that's just the storage of extra energy. And so this is why calorie balance, is a good starting point for weight loss, is because to take in less calories means that you're going to tap into those stores of energy to just be able to sustain whatever you're doing in daily life. And that's why exercise can influence it and different things like that, just activity levels or step counts.
Yeah, the human body is a lot we are very much like a battery. And the food we eat, ultimately, when you break down what we're doing with the raw energy, we're extracting the electrons from it. That's end of the day, that is actually what's happening, is we're extracting electrons from food. And so you can just think of it as you charge your phone. If you're someone that is always sticking your phone on a charger and keeping it at 100%, well, and then overcharging it, well, that's kind of like what you're doing to your body if you're eating a lot all the time. And you're going to be running low, and guess what? Your body is going to use, more long-term energy storage sources, which your phone doesn't have. But if your phone could carry fat to burn, or a secondary battery, think of it as if you had this auxiliary battery attached to your phone where you run down the main battery and then it starts eating into that. That's really how this is working. It is energy balance, and the body fat that we store is basically just a really big battery. It can sustain you for days, weeks even, if you had to. You'll lack other nutrients, but from a calories point of view, you actually have what you need to survive for quite a long time. Even if you're someone that's at a healthy body weight, we still store a lot more fat than we think. And so this does have to come down to energy balance. And I know some people are going to hear this and say because I've seen people say it and heard them say it, I tried a calorie deficit. It didn't work for me. Okay. Well, probably didn't measure correctly. Probably didn't, whatever. You might have had some food in there that you weren't tracking. I don't know. But what we do know is that scientifically, it's not really up for debate. Now, there are some people that it seems like they have to be in a more severe deficit to lose weight than others. Emily is an example of that. Her body weight doesn't change up or down very easily. Her body fights change quite a lot. And I'm kind of similar, although I lose weight probably easier. So that's true. But at the same time, whatever that maintenance window of calories is, because it's a window, it's there's an upper and lower limit to what your maintenance is. Maybe it's a little bigger for you. That's fine. There's still a lower limit. There's always a point at which you could lose weight if you eat down there. And it might be very little food compared to what you're eating. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It does. It does exist.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredibly common for us to underestimate, or let me make sure I say this right, overestimate how much we're moving. and underestimate our
Yeah.
calories. And so those who have said, I've tried a calorie deficit, it doesn't work for me, are likely doing one or both of those things. So they're missing little things they've snacked on during the day, and their watch or whatever is telling them they've burned more calories than they actually have. So there's a disconnect there with what's actually going on and how much you're actually taking in, how much you're actually burning. And another trap that a lot of women especially fall into is when they start to calorie count, they will look at a package of food and it'll be, 150, 200 calories or whatever. And they'll think that's X amount of miles I have to run to burn this off. And these women often are in a calorie deficit that's far below what even their basal metabolic rate is going to be.
Right.
So there's these extreme deficits because they are essentially starving themselves and they're losing their muscle. They're wasting into their muscle at this point and thinking, I'm still fat, I still need to lose. There's probably some body dysmorphia going on with that kind of situation, and definitely some body recomping to do. But as long as we're talking about calories today, I at least want to emphasize, don't look at food at how much you have to do cardio to burn off that snack.
No.
I remember I had a friend that I used to train with, and we would train, and like he'd look at what the treadmill said he burned or whatever when we worked out, which, by the way, those are super not accurate for you. Like they're not accurate. You could consider it as like a shot in the dark at what it might be, but it's not accurate to you. Even if you get your body weight set on the thing, we don't really know what you're burning. The only way to really know what you're burning is if we were to measure all of the breath that you are breathing and see how much carbon dioxide you're producing. That's the only way to really know. And we're not doing that. So anyway, he would be like, oh, I burned 200 calories. So that's like 2 Snickers bars, whatever it was. So like immediately after training, he'd come home and like have however much candy he just burned on the treadmill, whatever. Yeah. And, one, it's probably not that accurate. And two, why would you do that? It was silly. And I told him that, and he was like, yeah, I know it is. but he still did it. But I think, I think that's a really good point, is like, and that does also kind of eventually go, angle towards where we're going here, is like getting towards longevity and the way you should think about these things. You should be able to look at food as like, this is the nutrition that I need to eat, not this is the food I'm going to eat so that I can burn it off later and have this like treat that I'll earn later. We aren't, there's this mentality, I think particularly among women who are trying to diet, that you like earn your food kind of thing. And you don't. You earn your food when you make money to pay for food. Earning the right, like you have a caloric budget to spend every day. That is true. But you don't earn it by walking or running or whatever cardio you're doing. You just earn it by existing and being responsible. And there should be a disconnect there. We shouldn't be thinking in terms of like, oh, I'm going to do this now so I can pay the price later. Well, instead, you could just have everything work for you. Like, why should you do cardio? Because it's good for you and you're going to live longer and you're going to have a healthier heart. But it also does help you burn fat, so that's cool too. But and the other thing I want to bring up too is the TDEE calculators, the total daily energy expenditure calculators. They're crap. Don't even ever bother using one. It's like a lot of people use them and they think like, oh, well, it calculated, and they think it's super scientific and it's super accurate and all this stuff.
And they take it as like gospel. Yeah.
Like, oh, and I've had guys that are trying to lose weight or gain weight, women that are trying to lose weight. Women are hardly ever trying to gain weight. I've had like all manner of people say like, well, it said that it's this, and they don't want to budge on that. And it's like, yeah, but observationally, we can tell that the scale's been going up and you don't want it to. So therefore, you can't be in a deficit by definition, because a deficit means that you are putting less into the system than the system is putting out. Therefore, you're going to shrink. You're going to become smaller.
Right.
And if that's not what's happening, you can't be in a deficit. And a deficit is not determined by some calculator.
Right.
That's not how it works. And the other thing I want to really, really hammer home is the 2,000 calories per day, like general guidance across the population. That includes everybody, every outlier, all the athletes, all of the women who are 4'9" and sit around all day and are sedentary, everything in between. Those are people like that 4'9" woman that's sedentary every day. She's lucky to burn 1,000 calories a day. And a bunch of people are like, how dare any woman eat 1,000 calories a day? Like, that's so terrible. Well, guess what? Some people, that is legitimately all they're burning because they're so small, and that's that. So, like, go fight me, but, like, find out what happens when someone like that eats 1,500 calories a day versus, like, an athlete that might need to eat 6,000 calories a day if you're a swimmer.
Right.
So, like, that guidance is bunk. It's a useful number in a certain sense, but especially women take that as like, oh, that must be what I burn per day. That must be my baseline. Hardly any women, unless you are very muscular and doing a lot of cardio, burn 2,000 calories a day. Now, if you're a woman who's accustomed to training and you're a bit muscular and you do some cardio, you can get to where you're burning 2,000 calories a day, especially if you're above average height. But like even Emily, she's muscular, very muscular for a woman, does a lot of cardio. 2,000 calories a day right now, she'd gain weight. Yeah. Absolutely. I am
very short. I'm 5'2".
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, but that's kind of to the point, though. Yeah. Like, you're not abnormally short. Like, there's a lot of women walking around your height.
Yeah, average height's like 5'4", 5'5". So.
Yeah, and they think that, like, oh, it's 2,000 calories, so as long as I stay under 2,000 calories, I'll lose weight. No, you won't. Like, a lot of guys won't even lose weight under 2,000 calories if you're a skinny dude that, like, sits at a computer all day. So, like, throw that away. Your baseline is your baseline. It's determined by so many things, we can't even factor it. The most studied scientists and nutritionists in the world, this is all they do is study how the body interacts with nutrition. Every single competent one I've ever heard talk about this on this topic, will say you have to measure and observe the individual. Yeah. You cannot predict what your caloric expenditure is. You don't know. All you can do is measure and then see if your weight's going up or down at a given set point. And then with experience, you tend to figure out what it is. Like maintenance for me, about 3,500 calories, maybe up to 4,000 if I'm training really hard. That's just, I know that about my body with the way it is right now. If I want to gain weight, I got to go 4,500 calories a day. If I don't lose weight, anything below 2,500 calories or start losing weight to various degrees. Like, I know that, but it took me years to determine that. Right. When I first started like trying to gain muscle mass, I had to eat like 3,000 calories a day, and I thought I was dying. So like, contextualize these things. These are individual to you, and that's why when we work with someone, you get your diet plan. You don't get the High Calling Fitness diet plan that's some PDF that we give to everybody. It doesn't work that way. What works is us observing you and learning more about you and investing in the relationship and understanding everything we can about you as an individual and going, aha, I see what it'll take. And sometimes we nail it first try. Sometimes I have a conversation with someone and I'm like, yeah, I think I know what you need. And then like after a couple of weeks, it's like, yeah, the weight's doing what we want. So like, we're okay for now. That's not always the case. And sometimes people are like, hey, it's not doing the thing. It's like, well, sorry, I got to figure you out. Like just be patient, because it does take some time for us to learn about you. At the same time that it takes time for you to learn about yourself. Like part of what we're doing with this is trying to make sure that anyone we're working with actually comes away with an education about themselves and how to have something for longevity purposes, that like, when you're no longer working with us, when that day comes, you have far more knowledge about how to manage these things yourself, because we've like actually worked you through a process of learning about yourself and passed on knowledge and understanding and, whatever else we can, so that it's not there. Obviously there's general nutrition knowledge that you get, but you also like learn about yourself. This works well for me. This does not work well for me. Last time I did this, it worked. Last time I did this, it did not work. That's how and at the end of it, and that's part of why we built the brand even, is because you have to use a combination of observational, anecdotal, and what we'd call clinical evidences. They all have their place and we all have to look at them carefully. But if you're not losing weight and all the theory says you should be, then all the theory's gone. And what is hard and fast and true are the laws of thermodynamics. Right. The human body doesn't defy the laws of thermodynamics. Now, some people there's some nuance there with metabolic disease, of course, as it pertains to You might lose weight, but you might have more difficulty keeping the composition you want. Like if you have insulin sensitivity issues, it's harder to maintain muscle mass when you're in a deficit. Mm-hmm. That's one of the big things we're actually trying to rehab when we're losing weight for someone like that is like, yeah, it is actually harder for you to be metabolically efficient, but that's okay. That's part of the journey. And we know that. Mm-hmm. That was a tangent.
That was great. That was great.
But it's like, you have to go through this journey to get where you want to go. You're not going to get there by like looking at the TDEE calculator online and putting in your like, your BMI or whatever and being like, oh, well, clearly I'm a 5'5" woman and my TDEE is 2,400 calories. Yeah. I bet it's not. But I've had people like walk away with those kinds of numbers and just be like, that is not what your expenditure is. You'd have to walk all day to expend that much energy.
There's also like, I think the options on those are usually sedentary, light workouts, moderate workouts, intense workouts. Like there's just no way to gauge that. Some of them will include kind of what you do for an occupation and how much you might walk or something or move during the day, but it's just completely inaccurate for an individual themselves. And then it'll say if you want to lose a half a pound a week, if you want to lose a pound a week in different different levels of calories that you should adjust for, which somebody will say, I want to lose 2 pounds a week, and they'll drop down to that low thing immediately from what they've been eating and burn out really quickly. And then they'll say, I've tried everything, but you just didn't acquaint yourself to the process. You didn't take it gradually, a little bit at a time, drop a little calories, add a little activity to where you actually become acclimated to this change and it becomes more routine. It can become a lifestyle if you make baby steps. If you just dive into the deep end and don't know how to swim, then you're getting out of the pool or you're going to drown. That's it. So,
because just from a calorie perspective, 1 pound is 3,500 calories. And so if you're like jumping on there, like you just mentioned the example, like 2 pounds a week, you're cutting out 7,000 calories a week from what you're already eating. Like that's a lot.
A caloric deficit of 1,000 calories a day is significant, especially for a woman. For a woman, that's like, because most women, that's more than half of their caloric intake for the day. And it's going to be really hard for you to get the nutrition you need. You like taking calories that low is difficult, but actually doing so in a manner that's healthy for you because you're getting the nutrients you need is very hard. You have to like eat tons of like vegetables or something to do that kind of thing, because it's like there's not much left. Like you're gonna have a really difficult time getting all the other nutrients you need. And I want to bring up too, like diet fatigue, which, and I'm speaking more of the physiological effect. It is real, but it's been overstated. Mm-hmm. People get, a few months in, oh, my body's resisting, whatever, it's downregulated. Downregulation does happen. Mm-hmm. It is real. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's not, but it's been pretty well studied, and it takes a couple months to even begin. And it like peaks at like 10-15% at most. It's very, very slight. Right. It's not much resistance that you get when you're dieting. It's mostly mental. It's mostly in your head, and it's very real. I get it. I've been in severe deficits. Like I lost 15 pounds in a month a couple years ago. Yeah. I get it. It's very, very real. But like, it's not physiological. It's mostly psychological, because that 10% is not enough to add up to very many pounds over, if you're talking 3 months, well, okay. So if you lost, if you'd have lost 10 pounds because of resistance, then you lost, 9 pounds. Mm-hmm. That is within margin of error anyway for how we measure and track food. Right. So it's just not really worth thinking about it. What we more think about is adjusting per the individual when they're psychologically tired of the diet, and they're going to run into a compliance issue or something like that. It might be time for maintenance for a while, that kind of thing. And the other thing that does happen is women's hormones do get really jacked up sometimes when they've been chronically dieting too long. Men are not as vulnerable to this, but women in particular are. This does not tend to lead toward scale changes, in my opinion, but it does lead well, it does with water retention. I guess I should say that. I think the main deleterious effect that I see is your composition. You might weigh the same on the scale. However, you will find it more difficult to maintain muscle mass, and your quality of life goes down because your thyroid's deregulating, your sex hormones are down regulating, and because of that, you're becoming less metabolically efficient, and you're gonna be eating more into muscle mass than you otherwise would have. And so that is where I more see the issues, is like this more affects quality of life. Those are the bigger considerations. And so like aggressive diet phases, that's why we don't do them forever. If someone has a lot of weight to lose, we don't chronically stay in that deep deficit. The only time I do that when I'm working with someone is when I know that they're cheating enough.
Yeah.
Because if you're cheating enough, then you don't need to take breaks, because you take breaks too regularly anyway.
Every weekend.
Yeah, if you're taking exactly. If you're taking too many breaks, then we don't do this.
Yeah.
But if you are taking breaks, or if you're sticking to it, then we take breaks. It might be a month or two, it could be longer, it could be shorter. It's an evaluation of what do you have going on in your life?
Yeah.
How do the next couple months of your life look like? Are you going to be able to continue controlling your environment? Is this a good time to back off? Those are all the considerations, but it's more psychological than physiological, because physiologically, honestly, you could just keep in a deficit for a really, really long time. It's just that what I see is compliance with the diet starts going away. And then eventually, particularly with women, we do start seeing issues where they start eating into muscle mass and things like that. They can't sleep, and then other issues. And then we start going like, okay, it's probably time to back off for a while. And I think that some women become discouraged with the process when that sets in, and you have to let your foot off the pedal for a while. Well, yeah, that sucks, but just embrace it.
It's for health.
And embrace the fact that like you get to eat enough food again. Be happy.
Right.
But the big consideration there is not to rebound, of course, because sometimes people feel like going back to their old ways when they're doing so. And that diet phase was training. And speaking of like training people, maybe we should get into like, so when we start someone a diet plan, we're not making you, but we want you to measure everything typically. Everything. Yeah. We want to know like, it's this much quantity of whatever, whether it's by weight or whether it's by volume. And you want to stick with that. But is that really where you want to be 20 years from now? Do you want to be bringing that little like scale around and like putting your food on it and building all your meals that way? I don't. I don't think anybody does. The only people that I think should be doing that long term, like chronically, are people that are athletes that have, and probably not even strength athletes, but bodybuilders that have to really watch their body composition, particularly during a prep, but even in off season, it actually generally behooves you to be very careful. But if you're not competing, if you don't have a competitive advantage that you need as it pertains to your diet, where we're trying to get eventually is to where you can look at food, know what's in it, and know what you can eat just by looking at it, because you've measured beef 1,000 times. You've measured, hamburger meat 1,000 times. You've measured chicken breast and chicken thighs 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You know what, 20 grams of protein from chicken looks like. You know what a burger patty that's got 40 grams of protein in it looks like. You can tell by looking like, that's what that is. I know what 1 cup of rice looks like. Like, that's where you want to go. Yeah. You just have to wear the training wheels for a while. And then eventually you can get to a point where like maybe your relationship with your coach changes to like, hey, let's add a little more carbs. Let's add 50 grams of carbs. And you're not even going to measure it. You're just going to know like, oh, I know I can get that from like 2 pieces of fruit, and I'll add like, whatever it is, 30 grams, 50 grams of rice to my lunch.
Right.
And then you just know, and you know what that looks like. So you're not even going to look, you're not going to measure it. That is where most of us end up. That's where I am. Like, I haven't measured anything. I mean, Emily's making all my meals, so whatever. 4. You don't measure everything, though.
But I don't measure everything.
And you don't measure everything.
Yeah.
And
the kids and I play a game. Every once in a while, I pull out the scale and I'm like, okay, guys, it's 8 ounces. How much can I get? I'm not going to look at the scale. I'm just going to guess. And I'm like, I'm always within 0.1 every time.
Well, and that's exactly what happens. And so I'm just making the point that you don't have to. Even with this diet phase, she's become very good at stuff. And I'm pretty good at it, although you're better at it because you've done it more.
I've just done it more.
I can usually look at a meal, especially if we're out somewhere. I'll look. Well, look at a meal or something and I'll be like, hey, do you think this has 50 grams of protein in it? And she'll be like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like, yeah, it's fatty though, so it's like 70 grams of fats, huh? But yeah. But like, we're pretty good at guessing those things, and I'm sure it's the same for you, Amanda. And that's where you eventually want to be.
Yeah.
40 years ago, people didn't have to worry about this because we didn't have crazy, highly palatable foods. Restaurants didn't serve us portions built for two. And like, we didn't have all this food that's just prepared for you that is super salty and super fatty, which by the way, super salty, actually I don't have a problem with. But it does drive more hunger signaling, which is a problem when the portion size is already too big and it's really fatty. Salt and fats drive more hunger, more eating, and it makes you want to eat more. And that's the environment that we're in. You can consume 1,000 excess calories a day in America very easily and not feel full or satiated. In fact, a lot of those foods will make you feel even like more hungry a little while later because they're so crummy. You eat a bag of chips, you're going to be hungry an hour later. It is not satisfying to eat a bag of chips. You're satisfied for like minutes and you're like, boy, I'm hungry. And this is even why women generally struggle with cravings when they're pregnant, because if they get protein in, we've seen it time after time, they feel better and they struggle less with those hunger and those cravings. Most of the cravings I see are from not getting enough protein and sometimes not getting enough salt and water. When women are pregnant, you add those things to their diet, and all of a sudden, like cravings and even morning sickness sometimes goes away. Morning sickness can often be averted by chugging a protein first thing in the morning. Like, it's like, and it might sound simplistic. Well, like, go yell at me after you try it. But like, it's part true. Of the Emily's training. Had that with. Go ahead.
I was going to say part of the training process to get there to where you can not have to track anymore starts with, like we mentioned, tracking just calories only at the very beginning. Yeah. The next step to that is add protein. If you aren't ready for tracking every single macro, track only protein and whatever your calorie goal might be. So you're just adding one more thing. You're just tracking protein. Yeah. Good thing about protein, like you were just talking about, is it's more satiating than all of the other macros. It actually takes more calories to digest it than any of the other macros. So there could definitely be a weight loss effect just associated with eating that, even though 100 grams of protein is going to contain the same amount of calories as 100 grams of carbs. They're both. There is a thermic effect of food,
and protein is the most. Yeah.
Yes. They're both 4 calories a gram, but protein's going to burn more as you digest it. So there's that's the next step I would do. And when you're good at tracking protein, add carbs and fats together. Those are the only ones I wouldn't say really add them both at the same time or separately. Add them both together. That's where the rest of that balance is going to come from. And your fats and proteins may stay the same for much of your diet or your gaining phase. Fats will fluctuate a lot more. Protein probably will be the same. But carbs is going to be where all the big fluctuations happen when you're gaining and losing. So that's one to really keep an eye on while you're tracking, while you are putting everything into those calculators, is watching how much different 25, 50 grams of carbs is. And starting especially with single ingredient foods. We're not doing casseroles. We're not doing stir fries. I mean, you can mix it all together on your plate afterward. But if you can see those as single ingredient foods, then you can actually view how much is in it. How much meat, how much rice, how much of, even the olive oil, whatever you're adding to cook the food in. You can measure each one of those things and start to get a feel for it. If it's kind of a dish that's all mixed together, like a soup or a stew or something like that, it's very difficult to measure that out on your plate. It's got a lot of different food ingredients in it. It's really hard to eyeball unless you've been doing it for a while. So I would start with like single ingredient foods, put that together and make a meal. And then you'll kind of learn. Of course, there's a lot of tools in MyFitnessPal and Chronometer and all of these other apps there. You can make a recipe, put how many servings, and it'll calculate for you what the balance of that is. But if you're just wanting to learn what it looks like to have these things on your plate and be able to not have to track for a while, then do that, or save the recipes. Keep them stored somewhere so you know what the calories and the macros are. in various recipes that you're making. So you can just pull that up, know what it is, and keep that as a staple in your food. But what you're doing when you're kind of when you're training yourself, it is like training where you're learning this. You have to kind of pull back a little at a time and test yourself, like maybe one day. Just write down what not the calories or macros or anything, but just like the foods that you ate and kind of guess where you came out at the end of the day, and maybe the next day enter it in and see how close you were. It's kind of a way to test, like, how much have I learned? How much have I been able to take this to heart? And it's easy to lose track of it after a while, and then just track for a month again, come off of it again, like kind of a refresher course. But
well,
the more you do this, the more you're trained.
Like, quiz yourself a little bit. Like, take a scoop and be like, this is what I think it is.
Yeah.
And just see where you are. Like, it is a skill that is worth building.
Yeah.
Again, we have to be conscious of these things on some level as Americans because of the way the food is these days. That's just how it is. And so in order to be responsible and to, like, just not be fat, most of us are going to have to just look at the food, at least consciously have an understanding of this is too much, too little, or whatever, it may be.
Right. And just for anyone that doesn't know, as far as the macronutrients, we have, they just stand for protein, carbs, and fats are the main ones. And then some people say that alcohol is like the fourth, but I don't usually talk about alcohol. But like Amanda already mentioned, for every gram of protein and for every gram of carb, they are each 4 calories each for every gram. And then for every gram of fat, it is 9 calories. And so when we're talking about tracking macronutrients, we are tracking calories in like an indirect way, but our macronutrients are going to influence our body composition and our nutrition, and our blood sugar and all of those health markers, and also performance markers, like a lot more. And so that's why calories is like a great first thing to hop on if you're just looking for like weight gain or loss. But then macronutrients is like, we're really taking it to the next level as far as body composition and health markers, and just feeling better and looking better and being healthier. So
yeah, my theory with calories is, if you're going to just look at calories and not mark, not the macros, I think that you're going to weigh the same amount on a given set of like calories to calories. You eat 3,000 calories a day, any macros, you're going to weigh about the same. But your composition is going to be very different depending on the macros you eat. Your weight is going to be about the same, but how much of that is muscle versus fat?
Yeah.
And of course, other health markers are in play. That's what makes the difference. And the general guidance that I would recommend, and I think that this is fairly across the board for most, is obviously gram per pound of protein, in your body weight, and then about half that in fats typically. And then carbs are what we use to gain or lose weight. Carbs go up, you want to gain weight. Carbs go down, you want to lose weight. It's that simple. Usually a good baseline is like 1.5 grams or 1.5 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. It can be like an okay starting place.
Yeah.
See where that goes for a couple weeks, go up or down from there, manipulate your body weight the way you want it to go. That's going to usually work out for most people. That's usually how I kind of start with a baseline. It can vary really wildly depending on the individual, especially if they're muscular. If you're muscular, then you're going to be able to eat way more carbs. But part of the reason we do this is high-fat diets just don't work for longevity and health purposes. If you look at how diets have changed in America and how the macros have changed in America specifically, we eat about the same amount of protein that we have for the last 60 years, basically post-World War II. We eat about, so that'd be, we're going on 80 years now, I guess. And like our carbs are actually about the same. Now we have skewed towards simpler carbs and sugars,
more processed,
but it's actually not that different. However, what has radically changed are the fats. We're consuming twice as much fats as we used to, if you go back far enough. And the quality of those fats is way less. They're far more pro-inflammatory. And that has been more responsible for in my opinion, the obesity epidemic, metabolic disease, diabetes, heart disease, and probably even dementia, as we're learning. And so all the cognitive decline, everything else, it's fats. And it's not to say that fats are bad. You need to eat fats. but we tend to overeat fats. And the messaging that I see from the paleo and carnivore and other communities is like, fats are great. I've even heard crazy claims, and I've said it here before, people saying like, your body won't store animal fats. It can't store animal fats. No, that's actually the fats that you can store the easiest because they're the most like ours.
Yeah.
They have the least thermic effective food. Your body will take the path of least resistance every time because it is designed to be as efficient of an organism as possible. And that system will do its best to not have to convert energy types.
Yep.
And so that's how it's going to work. And it slows digestion, which is what we don't want. That can lead, especially with women, it can lead to high estrogen levels and just lower quality of life. And it also means that your insulin sensitivity gets hit harder. If you eat a high-fat diet, you're going to have insulin issues. Yeah. I have been saying this for around 6 years. Long before like a lot of people started saying it. It's because of my stumbling upon some of the literature, and even like Dr. Bernstein's diabetes solution book, which is probably the best book on insulin sensitivity that's ever been written. And it even among some of the people that I used to see as carnivore zealots, like including Mark Bell, by the way, he just made a post the other day. I couldn't believe it. He said something about, it seems like people that eat high-fat diets have insulin sensitivity issues. I couldn't believe that from him because a few years ago when he went hardcore carnivore, he was like, this is the best and it's everything that everyone should do and all this stuff and this is what I'm doing. And guess who ran into insulin sensitivity issues just like everybody else?
They all do eventually. Yeah.
You will. Your thyroid will also have trouble. Yeah. Like it is, that is
hormones.
Like your testosterone is going to reduce all of that. You do not thrive on a high fat diet. You thrive on a high protein, moderate fat, carbs, whatever you need to do to make your body weight go up and down. But I tell you what, when your insulin sensitivity is where it's supposed to be, when you eat carbs before a workout, it's better than any pre-workout. It's better than anything. You will have far more energy.
Yeah.
And like,
I think this all started. I mean, I think paleo came around first, as far as being mainstream. A lot of these things have been around for a long time, but like being the fad, paleo came around
like
kind of when CrossFit started getting big. Everyone was doing the paleo with the CrossFit, and of these three, of paleo, carnivore, and keto, paleo is probably the best if you have to pick one because there is carb allowance there. They don't like grains and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you can
sweet potatoes are on the menu, and
Yep.
those are good. And then it was keto, and then it was carnivore, and those have now been around long enough that those who have followed them for a long time are starting to see the results of that. It does take some time for the insulin resistance to set in, and they can be very much zealots for these diets because right off the bat you do feel really good. You lose a ton of water weight. You feel a little less inflamed, and it takes a very long time, especially if you're still salting your food, to feel really bad. Of course, if you don't do that, you get the keto flu or the headaches or whatever. But usually they figure out to add in some salt, and then they feel better.
Right.
For all these effects to show up on the labs takes a very long time, and it's starting to show up now that these have been fads for a while. So.
Right. And usually they point to people like Jordan and Michaela Peterson, who are like, they can only eat meat and they're doing great. I have heard both of them at different times say like,
this sucks.
This sucks. And we are working towards not doing this. Like every day we are working towards not just having to eat meat. Like I get that is it's such an exception that's all that you
they
can
realize
and should be eating.
That they're on an elimination diet for a specific purpose because they were in such a disease state.
Yes. Right.
That's why. And I remember this was like just pre-COVID, 2018, 2019, a bunch of like carnivore, like influencer types. It became like a fad because there was all these claims about I have high testosterone, blah, blah. And remember, like Amanda said, they feel great, all this stuff. Yeah. Well, when you go from eating like crap to eating suboptimally, you're going to feel better because that's still an orders of magnitude improvement. But like, miss me with the nonsense. So there was this thing around, they had all these claims and like, I remember I was at the time saying like, well then post your blood work. And a few of them started doing that.
And they were
And
like,
then-
oh.
And then like all of them had low or borderline low testosterone. I can't remember. I remember there was one guy.
It was bad.
I don't even remember his name. He was one of the big influencers. He actually had a couple.
Paul Saladino.
Yeah, Paul Saladino.
Yeah.
He had a couple powerlifting, like masters state powerlifting records, maybe national. I don't remember. He was decently strong, I believe, and like drug free his whole life and everything. He posed, and his testosterone was like 400, or it was something like that. And it's like, and back then that was, of course now it would be like, oh, that's normal. But like back then everybody understood even better that was
within range.
Yeah, it's like within range. Yeah, but you go back into the 90s though, that would have been like low testosterone. Of course, the number, it just keeps changing. In the 90s, it was anything under 500.
Yeah.
So like, anyway, like I remember he posted that, and he had like this like transparency, like, well, this is surprising, but I feel like I have to post it anyway because I said I was going to. And like, yeah, man, you don't have high testosterone because of your crappy diet. And that is what I have seen frequently. I've seen it in clients that have followed these kinds of diets. I remember one client that hired me. I'm not going to say his name, but he was overweight. He lost a bunch of weight on a keto-ish type of diet. He lost quite a bit, got him started. He also lost some muscle mass, and he knew that.
Yeah.
And he hired me, and I reintroduced carbs into his diet, and everything. Just gave him kind of plan that we would usually do. And he reported to me that his nighttime interest increased like quadruple for the first several months. He had this like whole new honeymoon phase. He didn't go on testosterone or anything. That was just like all we did was bring in some carbs. He was training. Like that was it. It was just freaking carbs because like his body was in like meltdown mode because it wasn't getting what it needed. And I was having to meet similar calories to what he was on when he hired me. This is super common. Like this is the whole high fat thing needs to just die a very unpleasant death someday. It is killing people. Yeah. Just like I made my post the other day about bulletproof coffee. What's the nutritional value in that? Basically nothing. Like use milk if you want something, or use half and half. There's some minerals in there. MCT oil, it is just drinking calories. There's nothing else in it. It's just refined. It's not, MCT oil is not bad for you, but like, why are you taking in calories with this is just taking in fats. Nothing. There's no minerals. There's no vitamins. There is nothing.
I mean, really, the only application I can think of for just throwing in random fats like that is somebody who, this happens in strongman quite a bit, they're trying to go up in weight and they're full from all the rice and potatoes and whatever else kind of carbs they can fit in, and they're full from all the protein, and they just have to get a little extra calories. It's very rare. It's not something that a regular person is going to be doing. So, I mean, unless you just like the flavor, well, then count it in your calories. But,
right.
I don't know a lot of people who like bulletproof coffee. I mean, it just kind of sets on the top of the coffee and slimy.
I think most people actually, I've heard a lot of people say they like it.
I think they're delusional.
Yeah, I mean, I think they like the idea of it more than they actually like it. But I do think some people actually enjoy it, and you get like energy from it. I get it. But it's like, there's a bunch of other things you could do that would probably be a more productive use of those calories.
Well, doesn't the fat content kind of prolong the caffeine duration? And so I wonder if that's just part of it.
That is part of it. And so the MCT oil it's the only oil like this. It does metabolize, half of it metabolizes as a fat, and the other half actually does metabolize similar to carbs. So you're getting this elongated, like we talk about slow digestion, this elongated carb absorption and fat absorption effect with the caffeine.
Yeah.
So there is a reason why you can kind of feel good on it. Like I don't doubt that people can feel decent on it, but like you could have like eggs and a piece of toast, or eggs and fruit, or a protein shake with protein shake and milk if you want, which by the way, I don't even like that, but like some people love it. I'm just so used to water. I tried it once last year when I was trying to gain weight. I was like, oh, this will be a way for me to add calories. I was like, this is gross. Do not like it.
I mean, MCT oil, basically all it is, the other name for it is fractionated coconut oil. It's just coconut oil where coconut oil is part saturated, part unsaturated fat. It's just removing the saturated fat portion from it. So if you are just looking for an unsaturated fat oil, then use olive oil or something like that. Like you don't have to go for this, fancy, probably more expensive oil if you're doing that. But this gets a lot more into the nuance of all these macros. And if you're training with us, we'll go over these because of your goals about how to time your fats and your carbs and your proteins for your workouts, because fats do keep things in the stomach longer. It takes longer to digest. And sometimes you want quickly digesting protein and quickly digesting carbs. And that's not a time to put the fat in. But that's something that's individual to your kinds of workouts, the time of day that you're working out, and really your overall balance during the day. But for somebody who just wants to learn nutrition and eventually not have to track everything, if you just kind of take your macros and split them up evenly, like let's say you're going to have 3 meals and a snack or whatever it may be, divide it. Just divide it evenly throughout the day. That's your goals. That's what you can think of every time you eat. And that actually eliminates snacking too, which really there are no snacks. There's just incomplete meals. So you can have this more divided to where, every time you're going to eat this many proteins, this many fats, this many carbs, and it takes a lot of the complication out of it. One other way to do it is, let's say you want to eat 5 times a day, divide that number by 4 still. 3 of those are meals, and the last one split in half for 2 snacks. So that's just the simple way to make it doable long term without having to track. And then you'll probably figure out, based on what time you're working out, what digests better, when you want those snacks, what kinds of foods. Because, even if you're splitting this up evenly throughout the day, the kind of food choices you're going to have for breakfast are probably not the same as you're going to have for dinner. So learning, what eggs versus chicken look like as far as protein and things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think those are big, important keys. Yeah. So for people that are looking for, accountability and a group of like-minded people to work with that can support you and your goals, provide you some structure, and just kind of take some of the guessing out of it, because we have been there, we have done that, and we can solve the problems for you. Just go visit highcallingfitness.com. You can book a meeting with one of the coaches, and we'd be happy to just talk to you about it. There's no commitments when you book a meeting, and see how we might be able to be useful to you in your journey. The vision is, of course, always you want to be the jacked grandma, the jacked grandpa. That's what we're really selling. You want to be capable. Yeah, that's probably. But that is where we're all headed. That's where what we all want is to be capable and fit into old age. I want to be deadlifting 600 pounds when I'm 50. Let's in whatever, those numbers have to go down someday, but I want to be extremely capable so that I can still play with my grandkids, so I can be an asset to my family and not turn into some kind of liability that needs care. That may happen, but honestly, over my dead body. It's going to happen because it's outside of my control, not because of things inside my control. And that's the same vision that everybody at High Calling Fitness has. All the clients, everyone we're working with. You want to be in a private Slack chat with people that think like that? You can come join us, go book a meeting. We'll be happy to talk about how we can help you guys. Until then, gains and grace, and mind your nutrition for the long haul.
Gains and grace.
Gains and grace.